My name is Dan Thornton, and I'm on my way to see an old friend of mine, Eddie White. Eddie and I worked together in the mid to late 70s, making all kind of custom and bench-made knives in Fort Mills, South Carolina. Since then, Eddie continued his career as a knife maker, working at various knife shops in the Carolinas, honing his skills along the way. He was always content to work in the background, grinding the blades, assembling the knives, and performing the day-in, day-out production necessary to keep a knife business going. Now he is making knives under his own mark, E. White, and named his business Shadow Knives as a nod to all the years he worked in the shadows of others. This film will show not only how Eddie makes a knife, but also how he conducts his business, along with his wife Laura.
Some people say I'm a hard-working man. Well, I'm doing the best I can. When the evening rolls round at the river, I'm bound. So what? Them heavies ain't right.
You said you was making knives, and I said, if you ever need any help. And then one day you called up and said, I need some help. And I said, I'm a-coming. And
Did you have a love for that?
no, not really. I never even thought about it. You know, just.
Did you realize that you would like to make knives?
Well, I knew that I liked what you were doing. Just that concept of you taking a piece of bar stock and turning it into something. Now that's always appealed to me. That, you know, that it's not a lot of people that do things like that. You know, that hand. It's the handmade part that, or the handcrafting part that kind of appealed to me. I got out of the service in '74. You were already sort of getting into the knife business through Blackie, and it was like, you know, we went to school together our whole lives, and, you know, knew each other, Boy Scouts or whatever, and you were doing it, and I told you that that if you ever needed any help, it just seemed like something that I would like to try. And one day you called me up and said you want to come and give it a go, and you could use some help. You were grinding a lot of blades for Blackie, doing the Ninja and Morays. Okay, I'm going to show you how I make a knife getting started. Usually I have a template that I've made, and I'll take and scribe it onto a blade blank that I've cut, and to give me the shape that I want for a knife. And once I have this, I've got my basic shape scribed to the piece of steel. And now I'm going to go to my Burr King in profiler. And I do put safety glasses on when you turn on the grinder. Okay, now I'm going to profile the blade. it gets hot sometimes. And there we have the basic shape of the knife we're wanting to make. And from here, I'll go to drilling and drill the holes for the pins. And after we do that, I'll come back and grind the blade. And that's what, I mean, a lot of people talk about grinding. It's like, and I try to tell them that when you profile and grind, you know, like you profile 100 or so a day and then turn around and start grinding them, you kind of get the gist of grinding blades. I mean, especially the Ninja Moray, one was a, you know, single edge and the other was a double edge. And it was basically a simple knife that once you got that gist, it was like that was the easy part. I always thought it was fairly easy to grind them. I mean, after you and Blackie had showed me y'all's little pointers, it's like, you know, I just stepped up to the grind. You know, when you got hundreds of blanks to play with or grind, it's like it just, you know, it very repetitious.
Every week.
Every week. Every week. Just day
We
in.
did, what, about 75 to 100 every week.
Yeah. Yeah, either the Ninja or the Moray. Just, we would profile them, we would grind them, you'd get them heat treated, then we'd finish them and then put them together. It was all through the years of the 35 years, especially Benchmark or a couple of other companies, trying to train people, trying to show them how to do certain things, and I can usually tell within 15 minutes. Give me 15 minutes with somebody whether they don't be able to do it or not. And I mean, honest to God, you can tell there's certain people that you got it, or, you know, it's like, I guess you could learn it, but I don't know. It's always just been a feel or something. It was just, you know, but I learned a long time ago that some people, they just ain't gonna get it. They just ain't gonna get it. And some people just pick it up and it's like, oh, it's like, you know, the little light goes off in their head. Then when they do something, and I go, there you go. See, that wasn't nothing to it, you know. But and I went to Benchmark and worked there for 5-6 years, doing all of their blade work. It was like.
What are some of the knives you made at Benchmark?
Still done the Ninja Morays. I've done the Rolocks. I've done basically all of the blade work. I touched them in some way, shape, or form. With the Argonaut, the Hawkeye, there were so many of them that I done all the blade work, and plus I set up all the production lines at Benchmark. It's like they would hand me a drawing or a sketch of something and say, run this through, you know, and I would set it up from A to Z and do the time studies on them and just set up the little productions of them. And it was, I don't know, after working for you, those couple of years, it was like I just knew the progression from A to Z, and it was just, you know, to me it came. Even today, I can see a knife in my mind takes it completely apart and puts it back together, knowing how it progressed from start to finish, and it's just it just came fairly easy. I mean, I don't know why, things just clicked. When you and Blackie taught me how to grind blades back in 76, 77, it was like there was one speed, giddy up and go. I mean, it was coming at you. You had to really be on your toes to grind blades the way they needed to be ground. And when I got up to the Burr King, especially with the variable speed, it was a whole different world. It was like, oh, I can crank it down a notch or two and really get a nice look. And it was just so weird that you get that feeling. And you know how the old square wheels were. They were real loud. And if the wheel wasn't real true, you knew it. I mean, there was always that little lump or a bump, or a lot of it could have been belts and stuff, but you know, it's like the Burr King was one of the smoothest, quietest grinders I've ever used. And when Blackie asked me did I want to buy the Burr King from him, I went, yeah. And so I got the Burr King from Blackie, and I tell everybody, I mean, that is one of the coolest grinders. I mean,
How much does the variable speed mean to you?
a lot when you're doing some, the more custom work you do. I just think that the variable speed just helps you accomplish what you want to accomplish in a more comfortable fashion than always before. All the years that I worked on a square wheel or something, it was like that wasn't a variable speed. When you went at it, you best be ready to do what you needed to do. But with the variable speed, you can slow it down and you can kind of ease into the grinding aspect of it. You know, to me, it's always been easier after I started actually getting to use a variable speed. They are expensive, but this one's like, it's almost 20 years old, and I've never had any trouble out of it. It is, it's a hell of a machine. Okay, and then I'll take and look where the handle's going to go. We got 4 inches, so I'm going to mark the spots for the holes. Okay. And a lot of times I just eyeball a lot of my hole drilling.
Now, as you were working for Benchmark, you were also working for Blackie.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, Blackie always had little deals. He'd come up with a new design or whatever, just like the Frisco Shiv that Gerber ended up getting, and I ground the first 200 of those. You know, one was a single edge and one was a double edge. It just had the little different locking mechanism for the sheath. You know, you know how Blackie was. He was always. It was a different way to stick a knife in a sheath and to lock it, secure it. And I'd come down and grind blades for him. He would always want this or that, and done the touche for Gerber. We done the first couple of hundred of those. I ground the blades for them. And most of the blades I drill holes, or basically everything I do have a template that I use, but most of them are just, that's one aspect I've always loved about custom knife making since the few years I've been doing it. It ain't got to be like the last one. It can be the way this one is. Okay, now I'm drilling the holes for the handle. I know I ain't got safety glasses on, and I'm not using a fixture to hold the blade, but this is an 1/8 inch hole, and so it don't really grab a whole lot. I mean, after you use a drill press for a couple of years, once you get up to past 1/4 inch, you drill in a hole, you might want to lock the blade down. But for 1/8 inch holes, to me, it don't seem like that much. I mean, I hadn't had one get away from me doing a 1/8 inch hole, so. Yeah, and this steel is a 440C stainless. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll take a larger drill bit and put me a little bit of relief on the holes. I don't know, really have no reason or rhyme why I do this, I just do it. I'm sure there's a reason somewhere, but it seems to help the pins go through, and I figure it gives a little bit of extra glue to in there. So that's the reason I do it. I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody that knows the reasoning, and somebody will tell me. But okay, I'm ready to flat grind what scale there is on this before I grind. I usually grind all of the scale off of it to get the sort of the finish that I want to end up with.